the Detroit Pistons select Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State.
Alright Pistons fans, so in today's video, we're going to be talking about Bol Bol. I recently did a video on Miles Turner and Jalen Duren, looking at possible center targets to help out this Pistons team for next season. So in today's video, we're taking a look at Bol Bol. Now before we start speaking on Bol Bol, please make sure you guys like this video. As always, today's like goal will be 100 likes. I appreciate all of you who hit my like goals on my videos. So let's get into this, man. So Bol Bol, he's 7'2", 220 pounds. He's currently 22 years old. And I'm basically going to give you guys a bit of a history lesson on him. And then I'm going to talk about what he's done recently in the NBA. And then I'll talk about the type of player that he is and should the Pistons sign him. So the first time I heard about Bol Bol was a few years ago, and it was when he went up against LaMelo Ball, Lonzo Ball, and LiAngelo Ball, that Chino Hills team. It was a big thing a few years ago. It got millions of views on YouTube. LaMelo Ball versus Bol Bol, that was a huge thing. So that was the first time I really heard about him, and ever since then I've been following him. In high school, he was a 5-star recruit. He was really good in high school, and he decided to go to college at Oregon. So in college at Oregon, in the 2018-2019 college basketball season, Bol Bol averaged 21 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks. So he was having a very successful season early on, but unfortunately for him, he ended up having a foot injury which derailed his entire season and really ended up hurting his draft stock to the point where he ended up falling into the second round. He was the 44th pick with the Miami Heat, and then he got traded to the Nuggets, obviously. So that foot injury really did, derail him because he was having a lot of success in college. So once he got to the NBA, he bounced around from between being in the G League and being on the main roster with the Denver Nuggets. And the main reason for that and why he wasn't really in the rotation is because you have to think about who the Nuggets had at the time. They had Mason Plumlee, someone who us as Pistons fans know a lot about, and obviously Jokic, who was one of the best big men in the NBA. So he was behind those two guys, and they didn't really see a purpose for him being on the main roster, so they decided to put him in the G League for a few games and then also call him back up and then put him in during garbage time in a few games. So that's basically the whole history lesson on Bol Bol. That's been his short career so far. Now I want to talk about what he is as a player. So first I'm going to start off with the positives, and then I'm going to get to the negatives later on in this video. So starting out with the positives, Bol Bol, he's another offensive focused big man. Troy Weaver, he loves his offensive focused big man. If you look at Luka Garza, you look at Mason Plumlee, you look at Kelly Olynyk, when he goes out and he likes getting centers, most of the time they're offensive focused centers. Outside of Isaiah Stewart, most of the guys he's brought on this roster are big men who can score the ball or impact the game in a good way on offense. So my first positive point about him and his game is that his footwork is really good, man. First coming into the NBA, I noticed it immediately, but even right now in 2021, his footwork is still really good in the post area. It allows him to create for himself, and it allows him to be effective when scoring the ball near the basket. Another positive point that I will mention about him is his mobility. So as I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, he is 7 feet tall, 220 pounds. And with that, he's very light. He's basically the size of a point guard. Obviously, he's much taller than your average point guard, but in terms of weight, 220 pounds, that's close to like a point guard slash shooting guard prototype. So with him being so small, it allows him to be mobile and move up and down the floor with ease. So that's a big plus for him. He's a very mobile big man. My next positive point is that he is very aggressive, man. I've seen Bol Bol get the ball a lot of times and doesn't really look to pass it too often, man. So Bol Bol, a really aggressive big man. This Pistons team, we need more scoring coming off the bench. Thankfully, Saban Lee and Frank Jackson, recently been put into a more prominent role since Jeremy Grant's not on the roster now because of the injury. But we still need more offensive production coming off the bench. Trey Lyles, he just won't cut it. So, bringing in someone like Bol Bol possibly could really help out our scoring off the bench. My next positive point with Bol Bol, I talked about it a little bit when I mentioned his footwork, but the handle of Bol Bol is really good, man. You can trust him sometimes to, have the ball in transition and he won't typically turn it over. I know usually in the fast break, you never want to give a big man the ball, but with someone like Bol Bol, you can actually trust him to handle the basketball and not turn it over. So his handle is really good and allows him to score a lot of mid-range shots, and that was my next positive point is that Bol Bol is a pretty solid mid-range shooter. So with the combination of his footwork, with the combination of his handle, and him having a solid mid-range game, Bol Bol is a really solid, offensive focused big man. But those were all of the positives. Now let's get to the negatives. So the first negative is injuries, okay? So as I mentioned at the start of this video, a left foot injury which derailed his college basketball career, and that will be a concern if you ever want to target someone like him. You do not know if long term he will be able to last long in the NBA, because that could continue to be a problem with him. Right now he's at 220 pounds, which is fine. I feel like he needs to build up a lot more muscle, but I just wanted to mention that currently he's 220 pounds, and with him being 7 feet 2 inches tall, it doesn't really add up. The next negative point that I was going to mention about Bol Bol is that he's kind of a defensive liability, especially in pick and roll situations. If he ever gets switched onto a guard or a wing, he has a very difficult time staying with those guys. Most of the time they put a move on him and they get past him with ease, or they just blow past him with their speed, and he allows them to score. So he is a defensive liability when it comes to, pick and roll defense, switching onto smaller guards or smaller wing players. And then also with him being only 220 pounds with his 7 feet 2 height, guarding big men in the post has been an issue for him, especially, with us being in the NBA. We know how talented all of these guys are. We've seen Isaiah Stewart battle against all of these guys in recent games. Imagine if Bol Bol goes up against LaMarcus Aldridge, just like Isaiah Stewart did in the last game, or if we go back to a team like the Pelicans, in that game, Isaiah Stewart had to go up against Valanciunas. If Bol Bol had to go up against Valanciunas, he would struggle defensively, just for the simple fact that his weight isn't up to par with his height. And then the last negative point that I want to mention is just that he's an inconsistent player right now, man. I know I talked about his offensive game and how much I like him offensively, but he is not consistent with that area of the game right now. He may have a few games here and there where he may pop out of nowhere and score a lot of points quickly, but at the same time, he'll have many stretches of games where he does absolutely nothing for you on the offensive end of the floor. So consistency is a problem with him. Now let's talk about, should we sign Bol Bol? Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is that I don't believe that it will cost much to sign him, okay? I actually believe, if anything, we will be able to bring Bol Bol on for pretty cheap. Now, he is on the RFA contract right now with the Denver Nuggets, so if we offer him a deal, they could match it, so that is a concern. But if the Nuggets don't match it and we throw out a small contract to Bol Bol, I think he will be willing to accept it, because you have to think he hasn't really proven himself on the NBA level right now. He spent time in the G League so far in his career, and with that being said, he should be willing to take a contract so that he can prove himself on a team like the Pistons. So that's the first point that I want to mention. It won't cost much money to bring in someone like Bol Bol, and I think he will be willing to come here because it will provide him an opportunity to prove himself. The second point that I want to mention is the amount of money that we will have freed up this offseason. You got to think about it like this. Even if we dish out a small deal to him, we could still go out there and get another big man or another guy at another position, just because we have so much money to spend. We have Blake Griffin's money off the books. Who knows what we're going to do with Corey Joseph or Trey Lyles? Are we going to trade them, or are we going to let these guys go in free agency? Like, what's going to happen with those guys? And if we get those guys money off the books as well, we're looking at darn near $40 million where we could go out and spend money on a guy. So we can spend it on Bol Bol, give him a cheap contract, but at the same time, we can go out there and get someone else to help out this Pistons team. So that was my second point, talking about, should we sign Bol Bol? Even if we gave him a contract, we could still ask someone else. And then my third point, talking about, should we get Bol Bol, is that this team badly needs a big man right now, okay? We know Isaiah Stewart is struggling out there defensively, especially, and Bol Bol, he wouldn't really help in that aspect of the floor, but if we're talking about offensively, I do think he can provide some help to Killian Hayes and Cade Cunningham. So I think you have to factor that into this as well. So to wrap up this whole point, should we sign Bol Bol? My answer to that is maybe, okay? A big maybe on that, because he still has his injury concerns. He's still pretty inconsistent right now. He's a young player. He has offensive promise, and he hasn't been given much opportunity on the Denver Nuggets. So if Bol Bol would be willing to come to the Pistons for a low deal, I will be happy with that. Now, if he starts asking for a little bit too much, you know what I'm saying, that's when I will probably say no, because there are still other options out there, other guys we could possibly pick up in the draft. So, you know, Bol Bol, I do like him, but if he asks for a little bit too much, then we don't have to go after him. We could easily sign someone else or draft someone who can be even better and have even more potential than Bol Bol. So Pistons fans, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like this video, comment on this video, share this video. Thank y'all for 4K, and I'm out.